Hey folks, Popeye, man, look at this. The final video in the Popeye set that you guys went with me along the way from building the entire set until now photographing it. So here it is, man. But what a fun time this was, man. I really, this is a really cool figure, without a doubt. I had a fun time with this figure and building this, these panels. Here I'm just going through, and now that we've got everything done, I'm just trying to see. I don't have any particular idea where I want to go yet with this, so I'm just posing and goofing around and just kind of letting my mind wander and kind of get lost in the scene a little bit, I bring out the hot glue gun. I ultimately decide what I want to do is take the spinach can and balance it on his foot, and then Popeye always did some cuckoo little dance and always did some, just kind of fun little stuff. And I didn't want a static pose with Popeye. I just didn't want him standing there, holding a can of spinach or something. So I figured, we put some wire in behind him, hot glue the spinach can onto his foot. And you got to be careful with hot glue. And I'm lazy. I have two size hot glue guns. One size is really small and is not as stringy, and the other size is a lot bigger that you just saw me use, and it is more stringy. But so the better approach would have been to use the smaller hot glue gun, but I didn't feel like it, so I just used a tiny bit from the big glue gun just to hide the glue, so none came out from under the spinach can. We're adjusting some loom cubes here. On the back wall, and kind of just trying to get a feel and build this scene out a little bit. Like I said, I'm not really sure what I have in mind. Sometimes I don't have, really in mind where I want to go. I just kind of build as I'm sitting there, and I feel, the mood is kind of taking me. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. Sometimes it sounds weird, but I gotta, kind of massage my brain a little bit to get going into a feel or a direction. But here you can see we've got too much shadow on Popeye's camera left, the right side of his face. I like the pose. I like everything that's going on here. But man, I don't want that much shadow on that side of his face. So what we're going to do is just add a little fill light. And it's really easy to do. And you'll see right here when the image comes up on screen that we've fixed that. And I just used a small handheld LED flashlight. Now keep in mind, you can use different, you can use tungsten flashlights, you can use LED flashlights. All of them are going to have a different color temp, and so they're going to produce a different result. I used a small LED flashlight with my hand over the front of it, and I just let enough light peek through my fingers to fall on the area of Popeye's face that I wanted lit. And so my hand was actually the modifier. But you can see it worked. And I've done that in other videos where you folks have seen also, where I just put the flashlight, there, set my camera on timer, put my hand in front of it, and just let enough light peek through my finger, my open fingers, kind of like little barn doors or something, and just let a little bit of light spill through on the spot that I need lit, and it works perfect. And you can see it did here. I want to talk really quickly about this image here, because if you stay around to the end, I'm going to show you how I do this and why I do this. I take a final picture with Popeye in the scene on the right, then I take a final picture with the same lighting and everything on the left without Popeye. And what this does is it's going to help me in Photoshop remove all the things that are holding Popeye in his pose. Stay with me to the end, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to do a screen capture as I go through that process in Photoshop and share with you how I do it. It's a great technique. If you've got some basic Photoshop skills, it's really a powerful, method. So here, I'm using we're changing Popeye's hands. Man, these mezco figures come with some really cool different hands and heads, man. I love it. We're going to get him in a different pose. And I want to use one of these wooden crates that I built and just kind of, propping him up with some yellow stick pins also, and I will link those in the video description down below too if you want to get some of those pins. Those are great pins to have for posing and building dioramas and stuff like that. A better choice here would have been using the clear-headed stick pin and not the yellow, just because it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more color cast onto Popeye's white pants. But I mean, you're editing it out in Photoshop anyway. It's not really that big of a deal, but a clear, headed pin would have been, a better choice. And you want the pins with the big heads because they offer more support, of course. And so battery died. Oh, I got 5 more though. It's okay. Let's get back to it. We're just focusing on Popeye's face. Here, the scene is just not at all what I want. There's a snoot on the back wall. You can see the hard line. The lighting is just not doing anything fantastic. We're going to go through and see if we can make some adjustments. The brightness of the Lume Cube, I adjusted it on the camera right, but you can still see the harsh edge of the snoot. I'm just not really feeling that at all. And so we're going to change the modifier. See, look here, we got a really, hot spot on the wall. I changed the modifier from a snoot to a diffused dome. And I like the overall, light, but it's really hot in that spot and you can really see the direction that it's coming from. Here, it's a bit dark, but the hot spot is gone. So we'll bump the exposure up a little bit. We'll bump the Lume Cube up a little bit and really brighten the scene up. There we go. Look at that. It's still a little bit of a hot spot on the camera, right? But that's okay. We can fix that with, in post, or you can, I can just move my light. But at any rate, there's a lot of ways to fix stuff. Just know, what the lights are doing and what they're contributing to the scene. I mean, like you saw earlier, I just wasn't feeling that light, the intensity of it, the hot spots of it, etc. So just make adjustments, make changes. This, it's in steps, man. Here again is the image where the thing where I do a picture with Popeye in the frame. Once I like it, the final image that I know I'm going to edit, I remove him and I take a picture of the set with the lights and everything in the exact same position, only Popeye has been removed and his supports. And then I'll edit that in Photoshop to remove all those wires like you see there and the pins under his leg and stuff like that. And, I do that, like I say, once I'm happy with the final image that I just took and I know that's the one that I'm going to edit. Here you see me remove everything and the pins and the wires and Popeye, and I just took a shot of that set without Popeye. So let's go ahead and jump over here into OBS, and we're going to do a screen record. I'm showing you how I remove all the supporting pins and wires that hold Popeye in his pose. Basically, from Lightroom, I'm going to take the 2 images that I want, which was the final image and the image without Popeye in the scene. I'm going to bring those into Photoshop as layers. Then I'm going to make sure they're both selected. We're going to auto-align the layers so that there is everything is perfectly aligned. Then I'm going to zoom into 100% or whatever gives me the best view. I'm going to select my brush tool and I'm going to create a layer mask by pushing on the icon in the layers palette. And all I'm going to do is with a medium-sized hardness hardness brush, I'm going to mask away the top layer with the pin and the wire, revealing the layer below it that has no pin and wire. Now, the one thing that you'll see me run into here in a minute is where the shadow being cast by Popeye, it's not in the second layer below because there's no shadow. So I'll change from that masking to a clone stamp tool, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and edit out the wire with the same process. I'm using the same layer mask, the same brush. I just make it a little bit bigger, and you can see how perfectly everything lines up. Once you click auto align layers, it's going to work perfectly because it's the same scene just without the figure in it. And so all the data, that's been recorded by the sensor is there. That's just cracks in the floor. It's not any remaining wire. It's just cracks and distress in the floor from the that I created in the dial panel. But anyway, so here we have the wire removed and the pin removed, and we've got a little bit remaining pin here, and I'm going to go in here, and once I flatten this out and discard my layer mask, commit to the changes, I'll use the healing brush tool, spot healing brush tool, stamp clone tool, whatever's going to work best in that situation. And you can see everything's just like bam, you know, it looks good. Let's tackle this hot glue right here, man. What is this? Clone stamp tool once again. And we're zoomed into some thing like 200% or something, so you're not even going to see this anyway, but I see it, so it's going to bug me. So we're going to get those little bits of hot glue out of there. Hot glue is great, but it's a double-edged sword, you know. It can ooze out and bubble out and string out, and if you're not paying attention, man, it can be a bit of a beast to clean up. And I'm just going through and making sure this is all looking nice and smooth and there's no funky little patches in there and the hot glue is gone. You know, and like I said, we're zoomed in at a really high magnification. I forget what it is. It's over 100%, and so you're gonna see all this at the pixel peeping kind of level almost, but not really at regular viewing. So we'll back out of the image here and kind of get an overall sense of where I want to go with it next, and you know, making sure everything's still recording, because when I have all the programs open, sometimes something doesn't work right. And you know, I got to make sure it's all still recording. But you know, a little spot on his shirt there, you know, little things like that I can catch, that I see, I know other people will see, and you know, and I just try to fix them up real quick and make them non-issues. I'll do some, you know, later on I'll do some dodging and burning and stuff in here, and some other techniques that really help make the picture pop. I'm just editing that little plastic, you know, from the toy, the mold or whatever they used to make Popeye, out of there. I just didn't like to see that line going through there. Now I think we're going to go ahead and get the boot, and we're going to use the patch tool. I play around first with the spot healing brush tool, but ultimately I'm going to decide to use the patch tool, just because I think it's going to be a better fit. And sometimes I'll use a combination of both. I'll use the patch tool, and then I'll blend it with the clone stamp tool at a, you know, reduced opacity or something, just to kind of blend out some wonky edges that the patch tool might give. But here we got a nice finished boot with no hole in the bottom, and it looks good. You know, I'm not sure what these little white spots are up here, but just reflections. But yeah, I mean, we've got a great bottom of the boot, and everything's looking good, and I'm happy with this image. And if you haven't done so, folks, like and subscribe. I appreciate you watching my videos. I appreciate the feedback. Look at this. I even added glowing embers into the pipe. Man, I'm really happy with this image. The boathouse signs in the back, the texture in the brick. Just really a cool image. Like and subscribe, folks. Like I said, I really appreciate everybody's interaction and shared enthusiasm in what I'm doing, and I'm, you know, happy to be a part of the, you know, community that's doing toy photography, and it's just a fun way to spend some time, you know, being a kid again. Look at all those cool reflections in the cans and stuff like that, you know. Take care, folks. Instagram, insightful_imagery. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, and my website, insightfulimagery.com.